I took a trip to Gainesville last week and I got to spend some personal time around the staff and a ton of former players, and of course, Billy Napier. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the experience, but I just want you to know Coach Napier did something that none of the other 8 coaches, I guess 7 really, that I remember that I have spent time around in my lifetime has ever done. When I tell you guys that my mind was blown, I am not kidding. I'm going to give you guys the inside scoop of what very few get to experience, and I feel lucky and blessed to be able to do this. But first, I want to tell you a quick story. So, I have been going to Gator games literally my entire life. My dad played for Florida, my grandfather played for Florida. We had season tickets from my parents had them before I was even born. So as soon as they could, my parents took me up for home games. And one of my very earliest memories is the day before a game, standing on the sidelines. This was a walkthrough in the swamp when Coach Spurrier was there, and I was with my grandfather. And I can remember Spurrier saying like, "Oh, is this one of your grands?" And having a conversation with him. I was probably 5 or 6, and I thought my grandfather was the coolest person in the world because I got to be down there with him. I thought Coach Spurrier was so cool because he stopped and talked to me during walkthroughs. And that was one of my very first memories about solidifying my fandom, so to speak. And then, we continued to go to games as the number of siblings in my family grew. We just had more and more people sitting with us. And it was something my dad did with us every single football season. And when I was 12 is when Florida won the national championship in 1996. And shortly thereafter was the Hall of Fame inductions for the Athletic Hall of Fame. And that year, Danny Warfel was being awarded some kind of award for being the top student athlete. And my grandfather took me and we got to sit at the table next to Warfel, the table next to his. And my grandfather stopped and introduced him to me, and he kissed my hand. And y'all, when I tell you that 12-year-old me didn't wash that hand for way too long of an amount of time that is acceptable hygienically at all, I promise you, it was one of the coolest moments ever. And my childhood was built on little bits and pieces of visits up there and interactions that have really kind of dictated my life path after that. I loved Florida football. I loved getting to be around all of those things. So I have bled orange and blue since I was little. All right, enough personal stories. Thank you for indulging me. All right, so let's talk about this visit to Gainesville. We got there around lunchtime. The first thing we did was kind of walk into this Gator room with an awesome lunch spread. I'm talking chicken Caesar wraps, pasta salad, burgers, chicken, lots of really good stuff. The kids were pumped because there was a cotton candy bar and a popcorn bar. And it was really, really fun. Lunch was great. It was amazing to see some of my husband's old teammates, lots of my dad's teammates, and, the generations kind of in between. It was really fun. I was super glad that lunch was indoors because it was a zillion degrees out there. After lunch, we got to hear a little bit from Coach Napier, and I'll tell you about that in a minute. But then we moved to the stadium where a scrimmage took place. And it was really, really neat to see these guys up close and personal. Florida has gotten so much bigger than they were the last time I watched a practice. The intensity was there. It was also really, really neat to watch the bond between players and coaches. There was a specific instance with Austin Armstrong and Ricky Pearsall. Ricky was doing some one-on-ones and Armstrong was kind of, jarring at him a little bit and getting them all riled up, and just watching him kind of razz him a little bit because obviously he's hoping Ricky Pearsall is not going to be successful against the defender that he's going against. But it just kind of was a little bit of a glimpse of the culture and what it's like inside the locker room at Florida now. It was really, really neat to see. After the scrimmage was over, or really players could make this choice at any point during the scrimmage, tours were going on of the new facility. And so it was really neat. They had golf carts outside the stadium. They were picking up former players and their families, driving them over to the indoor facility. There was tour guides that could show you around, but you also had kind of carte blanche to check it out yourself if that's what you wanted to do. And so my dad was there, my brother, his family. Eric and I were there with our kids. My dad had brought up a couple of my sister's children. So to just watch them kind of explore, they got to go in the locker room. They got to visit the weight room. They were super, super impressed with the game room, the massage chairs. It was really, really neat. And it was totally open door. Everybody got to check out whatever it was that they wanted to. And it was just really neat to watch that through the kids' eyes. But, listen, my favorite part of this entire trip was the few minutes that Billy Napier spoke. His message for the former players was come back often, come back unannounced, come back whenever you feel like it. Don't feel like you have to jump through the hoops of alerting us and getting a pass and coming down here. This is your home. You guys built this. Your blood, sweat, and tears are on this field and you belong here. And he told a little story about going back to his college a few months ago and, what it was like to kind of walk into that stadium and look around and take it in and how special that was for him. And it resonated that that's exactly what all of these people sitting in the room feel like when they walk into the stadium in Gainesville. And, I think it resonated with me so much because I've never seen a Florida coach make statements like this to former players. Now, in general, coaches all over the place are going to say that they embrace their former players and they welcome them back. But the reality is there's a lot of red tape a lot of the time. And, some of that's for security purposes. Some of that is for protection of the player. Some of that is just type A-ness that a lot of coaches have. So it was really, really interesting and so neat to watch Billy Napier be so humble, so welcoming, and so thankful for what the people standing in front of him had poured into this program. And, I know that Billy Napier is the right guy for this job, but this just really, really resonated with me. And I kind of had a full circle moment. That little girl who grew up in the swamp was there with her little girls and was getting to enjoy this Gator culture and the family that I remember growing up with as a kid. That is the UF culture. That's the accountability and the respect for the past that our former players deserve. And that's what they're going to get under Billy Napier. I've known and been around 8 coaches at UF during my time. Okay, 7 probably that I remember, starting at Spurrier. I was confident that Billy Napier is the right guy to lead our program before I took this trip. But after this trip, it's become crystal clear in my eyes that he is the right person to lead the Florida Gators. And I am excited about the future and what he has in store for Gator Nation. We could not have a more level-headed, mature, humble leader for this team. And it really feels like he's the right guy for this moment. All right, guys, thanks for taking the time to watch this and allowing me the opportunity to share a little bit of my experience in Gainesville and kind of, what shaped me into the Gator fan that I am. What made you a Gator fan? I want to hear about it. Put it in the comments below. Let's talk about it. We all have that particular moment where we became a Gator, and I want to know what yours was. Now, listen, it is officially game week. So we are going to have so much content coming your way. I cannot believe we have survived. We've made it. Football season is upon us. All right, so make sure you are subscribed, you're dialed in because all new content is coming your way. And I don't know about you, but I can't wait for Thursday.